Hey everybody, JJ here, both to the bust. It is Sunday, June 28th. Welcome, thank you for joining me for this episode. Let's start off right here with our main story. We've got a lot of other important news. Over 40% of businesses listed in Yelp are permanently closed. We're going to talk about what's going to happen, what's going to be the result. A huge bankruptcy announcement out of energy company Chesapeake, and the writing had been on the wall, but we're going to talk about how that was destined to happen. But let's start right here. Glitch hits Chase Bank customers. Now, I've been warning about this. This is the problem with having so many people being dependent on the so-called system, the government, other companies, corporations, banks, right? We're all dependent on the system, the power grid. If one of these things goes down, the banking system, the power grid, or the government checks, right? Think of all the people dependent now on a government check, whether it's Social Security, stimulus checks, unemployment, you name it. And yes, I know you Social Security recipients, you paid into the system. I'm not saying that you didn't. I'm just saying that at this point, if the insolvent government stops sending you the checks, a lot of people are going to be in big trouble, even though you did pay it into the government. So just because you paid into the government, do you think it's still there? Or is it just more debt that the government's going to go into to be able to pay you out your check there? That you earned it. Let me make that clear. Alright, so let's get into the news here. A recent Fox Business article, this was widely reported. Chase Bank blames technical issue for customers seeing incorrect account balances. Now, isn't it interesting that one of these glitches or one of these technical issues happen, the balances go down? It's rarely too much. I have seen stories where people have had, higher balances or, $1 million balances for a short while. But all the stories I've seen, it's mostly, I'd say 99% people with lower balances or missing balances. Now, this is reported that it did get resolved very quickly, but imagine if it wouldn't have been resolved. Whatever the glitch was or the technical issue or whatever happened, what's going to happen if it doesn't get fixed? How many people are going to be able to survive without their funds? This is why I always have stress, try to diversify. Try to keep some money out of the banking system. Now, you have to be careful. I'm not recommending it because if somebody breaks into your house and steals it from your mattress, that's also not a good idea. So make your own decisions based on your situation, but I personally just keep enough money into a bank to pay my bills, but it also comes with risks, right? So to each your own. And I also happen to use a credit union. Now, could a credit union also have some sort of technical issues? Absolutely. That's just my personal choice, personal decision based on my situation, but everyone's situation is different, of course. Let's look at a couple Twitter posts about this. Really, Chase, nobody manning the phones or digital support until tomorrow morning? I, like thousands of others, have a mortgage payment due this week that just disappeared from my account. And there was a follow-up here from Chase. Hi, we're not in right now, but don't worry, we'll be back to you during regular hours. Please send us your name, zip, and question. We'll respond as soon as possible. All right, so do you see how we're all dependent on the system in some way? Government checks, corporations, the banking system. Big problems when any one of these essential areas has a problem. Big problems. And I think you need to prepare because there could be something coming this year. 2020 has already been insane. But I've been saying be ready, be careful. Something even more crazy could happen. A couple more tweets right here. Dab Fitz tweeted out, Chase app is down. I'm missing money. No recent transactions. A reply here. I'm missing thousands of my account. That was Randazir44. Rick Sanchez also tweeted out here, Chase, you guys have some explaining to do. Where's my money? Another tweet here out of Neo. Me going through my Chase and panicking, but then realizing I can't lose money I don't have. So where's the real winner here? Unfortunately, sadly, that is a lot of people that their balances are so low, they're probably not even noticing any difference with the glitch. Alright, so bottom line, be careful. Try to be dependent on the system as little as possible. I know that may be impossible for some people because we're all stuck now having to rely on a bank to pay our bills. How many people go pay their mortgage payment in cash, right? If I had to guess, it would be a tiny fraction of the population of homeowners. Recent headline here out of Yelp. This is the Local Economic Impact Report, and this reveals that over 40% of businesses listed on Yelp are permanently closed. This is huge. Now, we're not seeing it right now because so much government stimulus is being pumped out to the people, to businesses allowed to keep people on the payroll, for example. But now a lot of people are asking the question, what happens to these businesses that took the PPP loans, the Paycheck Protection Program loans, and had to end up filing for bankruptcy? Well, it's going to get discharged just like any debt from a bankrupt corporation, unless it's a reorganization, of course. But permanent closures, that's a whole different story. Let's take a look here. And it gives us a chart right here, number of businesses marked temporarily or permanently closed on Yelp that were open on March 1st. So just before the big shutdown began back on March 1st, we look down here at the bottom, and this is the red in each of these categories. Permanent closures in the red. Shopping and retail heavily hit. 35% of businesses permanently closed. Restaurants, that's the biggest one. 53% permanently closed. Beauty spas also 24%. Fitness centers and gyms 26%. Okay, along with all of these closures, thousands and thousands of jobs that are also permanently gone. So think about, how is this going to be a V-shaped recovery? How are we going to get back to where we were before the lockdown if we have so many businesses, thousands of businesses that represent tens of thousands of jobs? How are we going to have this V-shaped recovery? You let me know. It could be all a government stimulus recovery. So if you pump enough money into the system, out to the people, because this is a consumer-based economy, technically you could keep this failed economic system propped up for some time. So as long as the government doesn't fail giving out these stimulus checks, maybe they can keep it propped up for a few more months. We'll have to see. But this is absolutely devastating news for not just the business owners, but all the employees of these businesses. And just like we've been seeing, the multinational corporation, the Walmarts, the Home Depots, the Targets, they're going to absorb a lot of the business that maybe used to go to some of these smaller businesses. Now, it's not just smaller businesses being impacted by this economy. I should add, with the plunge in oil and energy prices, Chesapeake Energy pushed into bankruptcy. Now, this had been writing on the wall for a long time, in my opinion, and we've touched on this topic numerous times over the past few years on this channel. Just a lot of corporations, companies taking on enormous amounts of debt. There were plenty of articles out in the past few years talking about the enormous stock buybacks from companies like Chesapeake and others. Right here is Chesapeake Energy's $1 billion stock buyback, a bright idea. Add on top of that the outrageous salaries that CEOs and executives make. Right, the people at the top of these companies, they will be just fine during a bankruptcy, and typically that's how we see operations run in corporate America. Right, so again, thousands of jobs. The CEOs, they'll be just fine when their company goes bankrupt. They have the golden parachute, as it's called. Many of these CEOs end up multi-millionaires, and they end up with getaway bunkers, many of them over in New Zealand, for example. And I wonder how many of the employees of these energy companies were living paycheck to paycheck and now also are going to have to be reliant on some sort of government check. Right? Americans are tapped out. Most Americans are in some sort of debt. Even before the lockdown, most of the population living paycheck to paycheck, having to rely on debt just to get by for everyday expenses. So anyone that tells you that this is a lockdown recession or that was only caused by the lockdown, no, that's not the only factor. This is a flawed economic system. It's a top-down system where the rich continue to get richer. The top 1% control a huge percentage of the wealth. And it's not just the financial system, but it's also other aspects of society that have led to this. And this is a article here out of healthstatus.com. U.S. antidepressant use jumps 65% in the past 15 years. This country is headed down the wrong path, financially, morally, socially, and eventually there's going to be a breaking point, and we're starting to see the breakdowns happening right now with just all the events that we're seeing unfolding. The virus, the lockdowns, that is the scapegoat for this failed system. But I think most of you on this channel are smart enough to know, many of you smarter than myself. I can see the comments down below that you leave, that most of you know exactly what's going on. This is no surprise. And a lot of you are preparing like myself. Is any of us going to be perfectly prepared for what's coming? Not likely. You have to be completely off grid, 100% self-reliant, not relying on any sort of government check. But think about it, even if your home's paid off, let's say you have property that's paid off, you're still reliant on the government. So you send in your annual property taxes, and let's say somehow the government misfiles it and shows that you haven't paid your taxes, and they come and take your property from you, they take your home. So even if you have no debt, you're still reliant on the government because you have these taxes that are never going to go away. So we're all reliant, we're all dependent on the system in some way or another. It's pretty sad, but this is where we're at. Thanks for watching Bull Boom Bear Bust, everybody. Hit that thumbs up button if you like what we talked about. Come back for more. Leave a comment. Thank you so much for supporting this channel. Bye for now.